There are 4 months left in 2027, but the fight over Chicago's next budget is already underway. Today, Mayor Johnson hammered away at a budget shortfall he says was caused by alders and sent a message about the city's finances next year. Tonight, one of those alders gets to the point.
From Chicago's very own, with WGN political editor Taman Bradley, this is The Point.
Good evening. Mayor Brandon Johnson announced today his team has found a way to fill an $85 million gap in this year's budget. The mayor blames the multi-million-dollar shortfall on a group of alders who passed an alternative budget last year against his wishes.
The revenues included in the alternative budget have fallen well short of their projections and in many cases have yielded no returns. The most glaring example is the alternate group's plan to sell outstanding debt to a third-party collector. That proposal produced $0. This was a bad deal for banks, a terrible prospect for working families, and ultimately, it precluded us from advancing structural solutions to our budgetary challenges.
The mayor plans to refinance eligible city bonds and tap into remaining COVID relief money to close the 2026 gap. He also sent a message to alders as 2027 budget negotiations ramp up, saying the city needs to fundamentally change the way it views its finances.
We cannot continue to govern by searching for loose change in the couch, or every time that there's a budget challenge, we revert back to proclivities that have caused tremendous harm to working people in this city. But we certainly cannot build a true, stable financial future for Chicago with one-time solutions. And that is not a sustainable fiscal strategy, and Chicagoans certainly deserve better. So, as we move into the fiscal year 2027 budget process, we have to take those lessons seriously.
The mayor is expected to unveil his formal budget proposal for next year by the middle of October. 32nd Ward Alderman Scott Waguespack is one of those alders who opposed the mayor on last year's budget, and he joins us to get to the point. I do try to get your colleagues to come here to talk budget, but they always say talk to Wags, so it's good that you're sort of the point person for a lot of the alders.
It's just that I try to learn a lot about the budget, and working on this last year's budget, we're starting to work on this one. We're looking for ways to help working families in the city. We're looking for ways to really move the city forward, to grow. But we've got a mayor who really pushes back all the time, or just doesn't do his part of the job when it comes to making sure that our budgets are solvent.
So what about what he's proposing, which is to refinance city bonds? He says he can close the gap for this year by doing that. Is that a good plan?
Well, we're talking about a very small portion of last year's $17 billion budget. So when you look at, just a few tens of millions, that's a lot of money. He's doing one thing that is closing that gap. What he didn't do was follow through on all the other recommendations that we made for the 2% of the budget last year that we really worked on. You know, he wanted to come in with massive tax hikes across the board. If you remember, there was the head tax, and he had a long list of things that were going to hit working families. And we said, absolutely not. There are ways to solve this. And we put those on the table, and he essentially slow walked them or refused to do them. And we can go through that list, but it would really put this city on the right footing if he followed through.
Well, let me ask you about what else he's reportedly considering, and that is dipping into the reserves from the city's grant management fund. Do you think that makes sense?
You know, when we're looking at small portions of what's left over from COVID funds, if that's cleaning up a handful of dollars, that's fine. But I think he's ignoring the big issues here. He's ignoring the fact that he has created $1 billion in debt that he hasn't collected in 1 year alone. Over the last 3 years, close to $3 billion. That's for, when he doesn't pay his water bill, when people don't pay their parking tickets or developers don't pay their fines, and on and on and on. He has refused to collect those bills. And we're not talking about poor families that he always throws out there. It's really getting ridiculous how he tries to smear and paint the issues out there without doing the hard work or realizing what he's talking about.
So the rebel alders did put debt collection in selling the city's debt. Now, the mayor says they tried with 20 banks or financial institutions to get back to them. Nobody wanted to buy the debt.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell what's going on when you have 2 CFOs quit, when you have a budget director quit, when you have the health director, the human resources director. Everybody's quitting on the 5th floor, and it's really hard to tell what's going on. So he can kind of put out any story that he wants, but the reality is if and when we get somebody who's willing to go after that debt and start collecting what is due to the city, we can get on the right footing. But look, there are other ways to do this. There are spending cuts and efficiencies that, in his own report, 2 reports that he funded, one for Ernst & Young, he failed to recognize the efficiencies in there. That's close to $1 billion that they say the city is just leaving on the table because we're so behind in terms of management. We're so behind in terms of collecting that debt, efficiencies in our fleet, and the list goes on. We're wasting hundreds of millions of dollars in procurement by having over 5,000 vendors in the city who are just basically spending, our departments are spending with those different vendors. So if he would get down and do the work with us and actually learn how budgets work, we could get this city on the right track.
Alderman, I know you know this. All of this is teeing up the fall fight over next year's budget, and I want to play for you an exchange the mayor had with reporters today.
What will it take to have a less contentious budget season this year, both from your opponents and you and your administration?
For them to be in agreement with me. I mean, think about it. What was contentious about it? The corporate head tax, right? Imagine if we would have actually passed that. We would have a surplus right now.
So it feels like the mayor's going to try again for the corporate head tax. Doesn't he have a point, though, that that would be reliable, steady revenue that you know you would have every year?
Well, that's if you want to pile it on to taxpayers, whether it's working families or our businesses.
Well, it would be the corporations. It's not.
No, it's not just
working people
corporations.
necessarily.
It's small businesses too. When I talk to our restaurant companies, that have maybe 100 people that are working for them, they look at that and say the mayor doesn't want us to invest anymore in the city. But look, when we talk about the efficiencies that this city should be running on, this mayor doesn't want to do that. He would instead threaten to cut sanitation pickup. He would threaten to cut public safety, do all those things that he keeps coming back with. That's not the way you run this city. You need to be governing from, not just from the heart, but from knowledge about how to do it. And I think our colleagues and I, again, we touched a small portion of that budget last year. And remember, he didn't veto it. He didn't say, he was poo-pooing it, but he didn't veto that budget, and he could have.
Just didn't sign it.
So he accepted it.
I just want to put a little bit of a campaign frame because it's an election season. The mayor sort of is making this populist argument that it's a time when the wealthy need to step up and pay a little bit more. Why don't you support that?
Well, actually, I do support it, and it was in that budget. And if you look at how much the business community in Chicago gives to everything from violence intervention to healthcare, it's in the hundreds of millions every year. And I think the mayor's ignoring that fact. He should have his budget director, if we get a new one, to really get in there and talk about those things and where that money is going to. But our business community, from our smallest businesses in the neighborhood supporting our schools up to the big ones doing violence intervention, they are at the table, and we support them doing that. And I think our residents do too, because we want a healthy, thriving city. But we can't have somebody governing from ideology only, and that's what Mayor Johnson's doing.
I wanted to quickly ask you about Bally's pausing construction on some of its the casino complex. They say they're worried about the video gambling terminals. They also sent Alders a letter saying that their finances are okay. That's not what this is really about. What do you think?
The VGT is a red herring. When you look at their own underwriter said that if the city were to get VGT, they wouldn't have a problem with their profit margins. So Bally's is coming back, trying to take a crack at the city council right now. We're basically saying, look, if there are 7,000 sweepstakes machines out there, we need to rein that in because the state has no control over them and nobody really knows where that money's going. With VGTs, those are hooked up directly to the state. The city would get a portion of that revenue and the state would get the rest along with the users of it. But we need to rein that in and do it the right way by state law. The mayor has no interest in doing that, and what we did was send out a letter to both the mayor and Bally's and said, let's sit down, talk about this in a public hearing so the public can see what's going on with it.
Do you think Bally's is violating their agreement with the city?
I think they could be if they continue to slow roll the construction and say that they're not going to move forward. That's a direct violation.
Alderman Scott Waguespack, thank you for your time tonight.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. We're back in 60 seconds.
Boy.
Tonight, a tip of the hat to the potential field of 2028 candidates using social media to test the waters before diving into the next presidential race. Top Democrats are trying to connect with a new audience while mulling over their next moves. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been sharing her egg freezing journey on Instagram. AOC says the move would give her flexibility if she runs for president or Senate in 2 years. She's also talking about women and reproductive choices. California Governor Gavin Newsom and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer are fueling speculation about their plans with this next clip. Newsom met Whitmer at Crunchy's Bar in East Lansing to record an episode of his podcast.
All right, so you are running.
Shut up. God, you are a pain.
It's kind of, come on, it's fun to be on the other side of the mic.
How early into next year do you declare your candidacy for president?
I can edit this, this is the difference.
And then there's this video from Governor J.B. Pritzker's re-election campaign account. Pritzker says he's Governor Maxing. The clip has generated a lot of comments on Instagram and X and some attention from Fox News, too. And one more thing before we go. Dolly Parton died today at the age of 80. We mention her here because she was that rare public giant that transcended politics and cultural division. Tonight, people on both sides of the aisle are mourning her passing. And that is The Point. I'm Tamon Bradley. There's more news ahead at 9 o'clock. The Forecasters is up next on WGN+. Good night.